I'd like to call to order the February 13th meeting of 2018 of the Falmouth Planning Board. The first thing on our agenda tonight is minutes from February 6th. Do you have any?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of the minutes of February 6, 2018, as corrected.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All set. Next issue is public comment. If there's someone here that wants to talk about something that's not on our agenda tonight, this is your opportunity. If you'd like to come up and address us, please do. Okay. The next item is a request for partial release of covenants, Crane subdivision, 39 Juniper Point Road. And I am going to recuse myself from this and leave it at Pat.
Bob, could you read the motion, and then if there are any questions, Attorney Kirk is here.
Okay. Motion that the planning board vote to release a covenant dated July 29, 2014, recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds at book 28341, page 31 of lot 1A, shown on a plan entitled Approval Not Required Plan prepared by Holmes and McGrath, Inc., dated April 14, 2016, approved May 10, 2016, being a portion of the lot 2 as depicted on a definitive plan of land entitled Definitive Subdivision Plan prepared for Charles M. and Thomas S. Crane in Woods Hole, Falmouth, Mass., prepared by Holmes and McGrath, Inc., approved on August 14, 2014, and recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds at Plan Book 654, page 94.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion of this? Okay. Seeing no hands raised. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is approval not required plans received between January 24th and February 13th. We have an applicant, James Ware et al. We have two plans. Plan to merge two lots into one. And we'll do them one at a time. And do we have a motion for that?
Okay, you want me to read
Yeah,
it?
could you read the motion?
Okay. I move that the planning board vote to endorse the below reference plan, approval under the subdivision control law not required. The plan does not depict subdivision by definition. This endorsement is without regard to zoning or buildability and should not be construed as an approval that the lots shown are entitled to a building permit. The applicant is James Ware et al. For the plan entitled Plan of Land prepared for James Ware et al. Gansett Road, Quissit, Falmouth, Massachusetts, being a merger of Lot 6A as shown on LC Plan 6125H and Lot 81 as shown on LC Plan 6125W, prepared by BSS Design, dated January 31, 2018, revised February 12, 2018, scale 1 inch equals 40 feet.
Second.
Any discussion? John?
Could you, I'm not sure which plan, which set of plans here that we have that refers to? Could somebody help me with that a little bit,
Two of
please?
them right on, one right after the other.
So is it the first plan or the second plan?
I believe it's the first one.
Yeah,
Hopefully it's the
Plan
first one.
The one on top here? So, I just want to understand which is being merged with which, please.
Merger of lot 6A.
Which is 6A.
I see former Lot 81 and Lot 81A. Are those the two that are being merged, or?
Lot 6 and 81.
6.
Former Lot 6.
Okay, former lot 6, I guess. and then lot 81.
Maybe we're out of order.
So they're being merged.
Okay,
No.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
That one's fine.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Next.
Next one. There's two,
Okay, this is A&R Plan 2. I move that the planning board vote to endorse the below reference plan, approval under the subdivision control law not required. The plan does not depict a subdivision by definition. This endorsement is without regard to zoning or buildability and should not be construed as an approval that the lots shown are entitled to a building permit, the applicant being James Ware et al. For the plan entitled Plan of Land Prepared for James Ware et al., Gansett Road, Quistit, Falmouth, Massachusetts, being a subdivision of Lot 81A, prepared by BSS Design, dated February 1, 2018, revised February 12, 2018, scale 1 inch equals 40 feet. We need a second on this.
second?
Any discussion on this one?
So again, I just need to have a little bit of understanding of this, I'm sorry.
Ask away.
So so now we have lot 81B, and what is parcel A? Is that part of this, or is it separate, or? Are they just asking for 81B to be part of an A&R plan?
Do you want Tom Bunker to,
What?
do you want Tom Bunker, since this is BSS, to give some clarification of what's going on?
I just wasn't able to make it to the
I-
office
I
today,
understand.
and I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's complicated, and why, Mr. Bunker, would you come up and help us, please? That's not what we're looking at.
For the record, it is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. I prepared this plan. What you have is, on the first plan, we merged two lots, and this plan takes that one lot that was created by that merger, and it has one large lot.
This is the first one.
Is it 81B? All the parcels are labeled not a building lot. Basically, it's just taking that one large lot that was created in the first plan and carving out four parcels which are not buildable and leaving the remainder, which is labeled a lot. Is it 81B on that, Chris?
I don't see 81B. Is that 81?
There's 81B right here,
That's 81.
is the large
So
parcel.
A, this is 3. It's right here.
Oh, reduce taxes.
An existing lot, 80, I think.
Right.
Can't build on it.
Jim? Could I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
What purpose is served by this?
Excuse me?
What purpose is served by this change?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Oh, excuse me.
She said, what
What
purpose
purpose is served by this change?
Don't, we don't need to know that.
No, but I just wondered.
Okay?
Well, those parcels might be the subject of a future conservation restriction, or they might be transferred to an adjacent piece of property. But the key here is that the plan doesn't show a subdivision. It only shows the one building lot.
Thank you.
Good, we got an answer, it worked.
Right.
How are you doing, John?
So my concern is that you have an existing home or structure here on one lot, and 81B will share the roadway. And in the A&R guidelines that I've seen in the past, it says that an A&R is not acceptable unless it's a town way, a subdivision road, and this is neither. So that's my concern here.
Well, we have a letter from Attorney Duffy. Did you read that?
I did read that. I'm not saying we can't approve it, I'm just saying that the guidelines that I've seen from the state, and even part of what Mr. Duffy puts here, says that it's not truly an A and R. It's not on a road, so that's my concern.
Well, I met with him, and he said, I got a little bit different story. He says, as it's drawn, that it is subject, we could endorse it. That's what he told me today, and I thought that's what that letter said.
And I'm sure he said we also could not endorse it.
We can always not endorse it if that's what you want to do.
So-
Yep, I understand.
So that's my concern. That any A&Rs that I've seen have to be on a town road or subdivision road, and this is not.
Well, it's going to be shown as no buildable lots are being approved here. That's
I
for
think,
another time.
I think all A&Rs state that by zoning, it doesn't approve it as a buildable lot.
He's correct.
What?
He is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling.
Okay, I understand.
This is right here.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? No one's voted in favor of this.
I'm in favor of it.
One, two, three.
Yeah, I guess I would be too. Because the reason is because it says
I'm
right
saying.
here that nothing can be done without.
It says they're not buildable. At least this plan doesn't make them buildable.
I
So
don't like it, but
Jim, excuse me. This plan says it isn't buildable. But what does that mean down the road?
we're not, that's not in front of us. Today, what we're dealing with, okay, and that's really why we're only dealing with what's in front of us right now. The down the road thing is not our job. We're supposed to look at this plan delivered to us today. Does it warrant our endorsement? And we have 4 votes in favor. And we have some against?
I'm going to side with John.
Okay, and 3 against, but that's still a vote for endorsement. Okay. Done.
So was it approved or not approved?
It was approved.
Okay.
4-3.
Fourth,
Okay, thank you.
simple majority. Okay. Get the agenda there, get
Right there.
Okay.
Notices.
Oh, notices, yes,
Notices.
notices. Go ahead.
So announce the,
Yeah, applicant Thomas and Marisa Messer, site plan review to construct a new separate structure accessory apartment at 190 Goleta Drive.
I'm going to recuse myself because I'm.
And for notices, Paul?
A public meeting notice was published on January 26, 2018, and 9 abutters were notified by regular mail.
Okay. So for the applicant, do you want to make a presentation? Please come up.
We submitted the application to the planning board and received the site plan staff report with a number of open items, so we want to address those items one by one. I'm assuming I'm interpreting this correct, that on this sheet, the questions that are checked yes require further discussions, but no means they don't. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. The first two open items refer to the natural resources heading, subheading water resources and wildlife corridor. We assume that simply means that you're informing us that those areas apply to this particular plan. Are there any requirements associated with those?
No.
Okay. So then we skip down to the next one, which says water service, separate service required. We have already actually applied to the water department for service, and I have the,
That's okay. Our approval will say it's required in the water department and your building department.
Okay,
We'll
all
take
right.
that off the plan. That's
Okay.
kind of just on every plan.
all right. Then the next one says sewer septic, and it says denitrification required, and that's really the big one for us because it represents an extensive expenditure on our part. We have received, we actually went to a health board meeting 4 or 5 months ago, I guess it was, and to go over the requirements for the septic system. It does, their final decision was that we did not need a denitrification system.
Can I give these to you?
We have-
We're ignorant of this process. You have to, I mean, if we're not doing something correctly, it's not because we're being disrespectful, we don't know.
Have you not presented that information before and you're just presenting it now?
This should have come, we were told that this should have come from the Board of Health.
We have.
We've got that.
We have
And
that.
that David Kerrigan, in addition, wrote a letter for us today that we made copies
Well, we
of.
probably haven't had time to,
No,
That's
Melinda
awful.
said that we could submit this to you for your consideration, and
Oh, that's hard to do.
yeah, and as I said, I don't know the
Oh,
process, so
I think we
we're
have
just
it.
giving you
Isn't
a
it
heads
this?
up.
Yeah, it should be in your
We
packet.
have
Got
it.
it?
That
We
came
have
in
it.
last minute, so.
Okay.
The letter from David Carrigan simply reiterates.
See, we all go to the office and prepare for this during the day, and we read everything in the file. We're not
Right.
really prepared to read everything here at this meeting.
Right, I
Last minute.
We
understand that.
understand that, and it,
But I
it's,
believe the longer letter from David Carrigan reiterates the short paragraph that you put at the bottom of the comment sheet that he handed in to you, that you did have access to, that there was no denitrification required. Right?
Mhm.
Okay. So, that is kind of where we are at as far as that issue goes. I don't know if there are any questions or comments that you wanted to make about that.
Yeah, normally we listen to everybody, and then we close the meeting and have a discussion, but
Okay.
we're going to actually, I'm going to have a discussion with you because I
Right.
want you to hear what we have to say.
Okay.
Okay? Is there anyone else that would like to talk about this? Okay. Let's see. Go ahead, Charlotte.
The accessory bylaw, have you read the bylaw?
yes, we have.
You did. Did you read the part where you're supposed to retain the appearance of a single-family dwelling?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Could you discuss that in relation to the plan that you're showing us?
Sure. This is an accessory apartment for my husband and me. We have a daughter and son-in-law and grandchild who are living with us, who have been trying to buy a house in Falmouth and are unable to because of crippling student loan debt, etc. They're tied into the community. Our daughter is the program manager for the Falmouth Road Race, and our son-in-law works for the MBL. When this came up as a possibility that they could not buy a house, they asked us if they could put a small cottage on our property for them to live in. And we said, well, that doesn't make sense. We are only 2. We're happy to downsize. We will build a small place for us. You maintain the family home, which we have had for 35 years and raised our children in. And it seemed like a great solution at the time. We waited, this began a year and 2 months ago. We have been working on this. And as I said, we're ignorant to the process. We just assumed, well, you know, you get X amount of financing and it's our property, we can put something up. We're not bothering anybody, we're out in the middle of the woods. And then we launched into this whole, this whole thing. Anyway, as it has played out, the design that we are looking at, by definition for us to age in place, needs to be one floor. We would like to think that we can stay in this place until we die. I have a mother who is in a nursing home, and it is $16,000 a month. A barn, we would love to have a design that looks like a barn. We would love to. By definition, it's not going to be a one-floor situation. It's likely going to have high ceilings that are going to be expensive for us to heat. And so we sought out a design that was going to be functional for us. We read in the paper about how this board was trying to make it easy for exactly our kind of situation, to make it easier for young professionals to stay on the Cape, to make it easier for people to age in place. And I have to be honest with you, this has been 14 months of...
The part you really missed, though,
Yeah?
okay, it says that this apartment needs to be accessory to the structure and keep the appearance of a building that would normally be on the lot with a single-family structure.
Okay.
And this is clearly a second home, totally different design, like you didn't pay any attention to the most critical part of the bylaw.
Oh, I don't believe that's true,
Well,
sir.
if
I
you-
think that so we took pictures of the houses in our neighborhood, respectfully. This is a farm, one of our abutters behind us. This is a colonial, one of our abutters behind us. This, I'm not sure how you would describe it. This is our next door neighbor abutter. This is pretty much the exact design that we have. This is our abutter across the street. This is a Victorian,
I know,
another
but the
abutter.
question, you're missing the point. I
Wait.
think you totally missed the point. The bylaw calls it to be an accessory structure. You've got two primary structures here. I agree with you, it looks like other houses in the neighborhood. But when we passed this bylaw, we were challenged to make sure that we didn't just make every lot in town dividable into two lots, that it had to be an accessory structure and design. And look, I mean, we do a design review, so it has to look good, look like it's part of the building. And we don't even, you don't present what the siding materials are or
We
anything.
have that information for you.
But to us, there's a couple other things. The bylaw also says you're restricted to 4 bedrooms. But you have to have a 40,000 square foot lot, and you don't have a 40,000 square foot lot.
Correct, and we have 4 bedrooms currently in the house, and we were informed through the various planning departments that we were grandfathered in as having 4 bedrooms, and
The house originally, well, the house that exists is,
No, we're talking about the new structure. We're not arguing that you don't have a 4-bedroom house designed here, your house here. The new structure, when we passed the accessory apartment bylaw, we deliberately said that they're gonna be accessory, both in size, look, and appearance. And yours looks like it's cut the lot in half, 2 different lots, you just split it. You might as well just subdivide a lot and take your lot and divide it in half. Doesn't look accessory to us at all.
well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by look accessory. I mean, it has to look similar to the existing structure?
That's why we asked you if you read the bylaw.
yeah, we
Well,
did.
it doesn't say,
Well, it says, well,
Jim, could I just say, you know, you're saying you don't understand the process. We're all just learning. It's a new bylaw. So we're all learning together.
Right,
This presents us a first example to us as a zoning, as the planning board of 2 very, very separate buildings trying to be accessories. So it's the first time we're looking at a situation like this, and it appears to be completely not what was envisioned in the bylaw, a single-family home would be a contiguous building. So it would be one building, one part of which becomes a separate accessory apartment within the same building, whereas these are very separated buildings, physically separated. And we need really to avoid that.
It specifically says
That they
if
can be
the,
freestanding, I'm sorry.
if the accessory structure is not attached, so it does say it doesn't have to be attached.
We did have one example of that, but both buildings were existing. They were already there.
No.
No, but I think they can build it, but the real part of the language is, it talks about the accessory structure as in a garage, a barn, or giving the appearance of a building that normally be associated with an existing structure.
So in other words-
Not two new structures. I mean, you think, I think,
Can I,
missed that part of it.
well,
It's somewhat vague as to what constitutes.
Do we have a copy of the bylaw? I just don't think it's vague. I'm
we
gonna-
also have pictures of, we're out in the woods.
I know, but we're past this for the whole town, this sets precedent.
I
We
understand,
have
I
to be
do.
careful. If
I
you're not,
appreciate that. We
if you
confer with-
disregard our bylaw, then everybody comes in and says, I wouldn't have to pay attention, they approved it anyway.
Okay,
If this had been, that's your primary residence, and
Yes, it
let's
is.
say you had a garage over there, or there had been a barn, another structure. The way the bylaw is written, it isn't to build an additional structure, but to take an existing structure and an accessory building and convert that accessory building, which triggers a site plan special permit. So that's separate
Yeah.
from,
I
Or,
don't think that the
but
requirement is that.
here's
it's
the part you're
existing
missing, okay?
structure.
This is the part I think you're missing. The architectural effect, as in the result of the accessory apartment being constructed, shall be that of a garage or barn incidental to a single-family residence. And this is clearly a second home, doesn't look incidental.
So what would it require then? What are you saying that we would need to do in
Well,
order to make
if it
this?
looked like the house, if it
Well,
had shingles.
As we said, it's one floor because that's where
No,
we're
that's not
hoping
what he's
to.
talking about. He's talking about the siding.
I'm
And the
talking about
siding,
the architectural.
We are absolutely willing to adjust to your specifications.
Well, we're not going to specify it. Do
But-
you, well, we'll have a vote. Maybe other people feel differently. I just don't feel, to me, this looks like a totally second home on the site and is not accessory to this structure at all.
But again, I don't quite get, what makes you say it's not accessory?
It doesn't have the appearance.
Appearance.
It
So-
doesn't
Or the
So we're-
architectural effect.
Okay, so I think the drawings, actually, you can probably see here as well. So this, the siding on this is indeterminate, so we don't know exactly what the siding's going to be. So if, for example, it was shingles, that would go along with the cedar shakes that we have on the existing house, then it would blend in more. Is that what you're getting at?
Be a start.
We can certainly do that. Additionally, as I said, I understand that you need to do this for the sake of the town. We went around to all of our, I thought we had 7 abutters. We went around to the 7 abutters, and they signed off on reviewing the 5 out of 7 of them. Bob recused himself, and Christine, our other abutter, said that she had some concerns about parking, which we spoke about. 5 of the 7 abutters signed off that they had seen the design, that they were happy with the design, that they had no problems with it. It's going to be out in the woods where, honestly, this is the line of sight of it, no one is going to see it. We have pictures of the lot of where it's going to be positioned. It's in the woods.
Jim? Whether it's in the woods or not doesn't change the fact that it would set a precedent for the town. So its exact placement there in the woods doesn't matter. I'd like to raise a different issue as far as the design's concerned. I think it goes way beyond the siding. It's the styling, but more than anything, at least to me, perhaps it's the presentation that I saw the site plan first rather than the elevations. Its placement vis-a-vis the existing house is to make it as separate as possible, to separate them on the lot with separate driveways except at the very end, so that you can lead a reasonable existence, two families cohabiting close together. I can see why you got that, but it doesn't really fit the accessory bylaw.
I guess I'm not clear why. I
I
thought
see
that was
why
the
it
whole point of the
doesn't.
bylaw.
Okay, well, here's the
No.
thing too. We only do design review, okay? That's what our board is doing. We're telling you what we think of the design, and we're having this back and forth with you. Normally, we would close the meeting and we'd say all this about you, and we'd turn you down, and you wouldn't know what's going on. So we chose to explain to you what's happening here. But we don't even approve this. This actually, we do the design review and we send it on to the zoning board of appeals, and they're the ones that actually give you the special permit for the detached dwelling. It's not even in our purview. Our purview here tonight is to comment on the design.
Okay.
And so that's what you're getting from us, is comments on the design. And does anyone else feel any differently?
No,
Go ahead, Paul.
I concur. This is very different than what the bylaw has intended, regardless of where it is. It's basically two separate structures on one piece of property. But it's so different that the bylaw requires a zoning board of appeals special permit to even move forward on this. So that's not even our purview. That's not even our decision. But I think there's some other issues here, drainage and other things that we can probably get into. But the bigger issue is, does it really meet the bylaw? And frankly, I don't think it does.
Neither do I.
You know, although I'm extremely empathic and understand and wish it could be, but with your lot size, that's not a lot that could accommodate two, regardless whether it's in the middle of a pond or in the middle of the woods. It couldn't accommodate two separate dwellings anyway,
But I'm not sure why.
because it's a 33,291 square foot lot.
Yes, it is. And we have gone through the Board of Health, and we have discussed with them the septic options, and we are certainly willing, in the interest of not increasing any kind of nitrogen load, to put in composting toilets. I feel like we are trying to do everything that we can to just provide some housing for our children and for ourselves as we age.
So here's a question for you, and it's outside of this a little bit, but couldn't you just add that on to the existing house? Because if you did, if you added on something to the back, so the front remained pretty much looking the same, then you could accomplish it. But we would have half the community coming in and saying, we want to add another house to our lot.
We thought that this was, first of all, we thought that this was the
impression we
intent
had,
of the
that
bylaw,
the
and
bylaw
additionally,
is-
we were told by Rod Palmer that attaching something to the house would be more problematic because he said you would have to put in a specialized firewall. When we went to him, when we started this process, and he said, would it be detached or attached? And we said, we're hoping for detached. And he said, quote unquote, oh, thank God, because if you're gonna attach it, that's another whole thing where you have to have a whole separate firewall. He said, this is a much better solution. We're trying to do what
It is a much better
Town
solution
Hall
for the
is
building
telling us
code.
to do.
It is a much better solution to the building code because you're building two different structures
That's changed.
and two different houses. But that's not what the bylaw allows you to do. He was correct in saying it's less complicated than that, than having a firewall, but anytime you build a multifamily home, the firewall, that's a common practice. It's double-eighth sheet rock. It's not astronomically difficult, but to me, it's more the design. This clearly looks to me has no connection with the other property at all.
What would it take, then? Go ahead.
A redesign. Windows, doors, shingles, roof line, pitches. I mean, we have a beautiful picture of your home. You could make, I don't want to tell you how to do it, but you could try a little ranch cottage that has the same kind of design. You know, some of the roof, the windows, it looks like it belongs to it, like it
Would
it
that be
has,
acceptable then to you guys?
it'd be a lot better than what we have.
I've got another idea.
Go ahead, Pat.
Okay, we shouldn't be doing this, but I understand.
We're trying to help them. I
Yeah,
decided
okay.
to help
But
them.
but I really would like to see this happen if we could do it. One of the things that's in our bylaw is if there is a garage and it is converted like a second story converted to a living space. When I'm looking at your plan here, I'm seeing, okay, if you remove the carport and you make what is the basement into a garage, it might mean flipping around, I do not know your topography. So now you have a garage to the main house, and you're adding a second floor apartment, which would work the way you've got it. I really would like to see this happen for you. That structure,
Make the downstairs a garage.
a garage, and it kind of looks like that. If you see that little triangle.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Pitch the roof a little bit more, try to make it look like it's related to the other building
even-
architecturally.
Even that, I'm not really so concerned about, as the pitch of the roof. I am concerned with the carport, if you can get rid of that.
Well, yeah, that's,
Okay, I mean, that's not a big deal to get rid of that. Make the basement become a garage, part of it. And maybe it has to be flipped, I don't know, to make that work.
Okay.
And then, if you said the outside is indeterminate at this point, shingle it, paint the trim to match the main house. Because I really would like to see this happen for you. Does that make sense? Is it doable for you?
yeah, it does, well.
And you
but
still
it's
have to go to the
doable.
zoning board of appeals and get their
Yes.
approval. Keep in mind
I know.
that they are the special permit granting authority, and in this case, we're just doing the design
I
review.
understand that.
Okay, our role is
But you make a
limited.
recommendation to them.
We will make our recommendations to them.
Absolutely.
So if we decide to go with Ms. Kerfoot's suggestion, so we would need to get a whole, obviously, a new design and everything.
You'd have to come back with elevations. It'd be great if they were in color, showing, we want to know what siding your material is going to use. This leaves a lot of imagination here. We don't know what we're approving. Like to see the windows, doors, and roof lines, what makes buildings look better.
But I'm looking at this, it's easy enough to match the windows on the main house. And we've had something similar come before us just very recently, where there's a garage under and an accessory apartment above. And that's what would make this fly, I think.
And then we determine the design is okay, and we still send it off to zoning, and they're the ones that
I understand.
make the final decision.
Okay, can we go beyond, well,
I think we're done. I wanted to have this conversation with you so you could hear us. If you have anything else to present, I'd like you to present it, and then I'd like to close the hearing. I did this special to give you some
Feedback.
I
insight.
understand that, we appreciate that. There was someone who had a question about the drainage. I think that was Mr. Dryer. And again, the plan that you have in front of you is not the final plan, which we just got the new version recently, so we had a chance to send it to you. But in regard to the drainage, there's going to be a dry well here, and also.
Bring the plan back, show that. That'd be great.
Okay.
That's what he was talking about.
And
That's
the
exactly,
driveway will be gravel rather than an impervious.
Oh, excellent.
those are all good things.
Okay.
And the more it can mirror this, the better.
Okay, well, I'm not promising anything, but we'll try.
Please look at design standards number 4 and 4B in particular in your thought
I
process.
guess we misinterpreted them because to our mind, they were somewhat vague.
Well, and I guess our belief that it's important for us to have a one-story dwelling is felt paramount, more important than the design. And I apologize for getting emotional, I really do. This is, as I said, it's been 14 months with
Don't apologize, it's okay.
countless trips to town hall and countless amounts of money and countless amounts of letdowns, and we were very hopeful. So we'll do, what we can. So, thank you.
Would you, see if they come into the office when over this?
What?
And make a suggestion, they come into the office.
Yeah,
Can I do-
You can make it,
Yeah.
go ahead.
yeah. Paul, go ahead.
If I could make one final comment, you're certainly welcome to come into the office and go over some of these issues, if that helps you. You're welcome to come into the office and go over these issues before you spend a lot of money on it, and we'll be glad to help you wherever we
Can
can.
actually get into your office right now.
Are we excused?
No, we're not, we haven't closed the hearing yet. We're about to. You can leave if you want. I'm not, anyone else like to speak on this issue? Motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll take it under advisement. Okay. Yikes. I think I can make it work. Okay, Bob can come back. The next application is T-Ticket Car Wash LLC, site plan review to construct a car wash located at 187 T-Ticket Highway.
One building to another is part of the design.
Should be.
Musical
It
chairs?
is.
I
The
am
relationship
recusing
of one
myself
building
from
to
this
another
hearing.
is part of the design. So why did it get disallowed? It's not. Please don't forget.
Okay, I'm sorry, did Jim read this or not? I just, pardon? Okay, so the applicant, T-Ticket Car Wash LLC, site plan review to construct a car wash located at 187 T-Ticket Highway, adding over 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Falmouth Engineering, Inc. For the applicant.
Evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ahmed Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent T-Ticket Car Wash LLC, the applicant in this matter. T-Ticket Car Wash is the holder of a leasehold interest in the property. And I'm joined tonight by Mike Borselli of Falmouth Engineering and Matt Traffy of the Arlen Company, who is the designer on this project. This particular property is located in East Falmouth on Route 28. It's on a lot of 24,200 square feet and is located entirely in the B2 zoning district. Presently, there's a one-story building of about 1,900 square feet. It's had a number of uses in the past. Most recently, it was Tina's Ice Cream. Prior to that, it's been a KFC, Honeydew Donuts, a Quiznos. It was approved as a Jiffy Lube at one point. I don't believe that ever came to fruition. The building is non-conforming. It's non-conforming as to side yard setbacks, as well as to lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking, being 73.6%. The applicant is seeking to raise the existing non-conforming structure and to replace it with a new conforming structure, which would be a car wash. The proposed building is just over 3,200 square feet, which would be 13.5% lot coverage, and the lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking is actually reduced to 72.3%, which translates to a reduction of a little over 300 square feet. Due to the addition of more than 1,000 square feet, we're here in front of you for site plan review. As you know, this is intended to ensure that design and layout constitutes a suitable development for the area. The applicant and the architect and designers have worked hard to find a suitable design. They've been seeking to fit it in with the area, both with some of the existing structures and some of the recently approved structures. They want it to fit in, and they want it to fit in with the intended long-term development. This particular location makes sense for this project. It's connected to the Little Pond Sewer District. It's located on a main thoroughfare, and it's a substantial improvement over the existing condition of the lot. Further, it's in line with both past approvals and uses. As to the site, we'd be looking to use the existing curb cut, making no modification to the opening within the road layout. The site has been designed for clear traffic flow. There are 2 payment stations located in the queue area, essentially, and that queue area is set over about 150 feet from the road. The property is presently in pretty poor condition. It'll be substantially improved with both new paving to the site, new structure, obviously, and landscaping. This particular project does require a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have applied for that permit, and we have a hearing scheduled for March 1st. I, along with Mr. Borselli and Mr. Traffy, would be happy to address any questions you might have at this time.
for the record.
Aha, okay.
For the record,
Notice.
I'd like to indicate the notice of this public hearing was published on 1/26/18, and 6 abutters were notified by regular mail, for the record. Thank you. I had a couple of questions.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I don't see any recycling going on at this site. Is there any recycling of the wash water?
Yes.
I didn't see any record on here.
So there is substantial recycling and there's substantial
How much?
recapture of the site, and I'll let Mr. Traffy speak to the exact numbers on that.
Board, this is Matt Traffy with Arlen Company. I've been involved with this project right from the start. And as far as you're looking at the water usage in the car wash and the recycling of that water, is that your question?
Yes.
We typically reclaim 60% of the water.
60%.
Yeah. And there's between 52 and 58 gallons of water per car. And we're reclaiming right around 32 gallons of that.
Thank you. Is it different than last week?
The engineers raised a bunch of questions.
I saw a different drawing instead. Was this drawing changed?
Are there other board questions?
I'm just wondering how it squares being in the coastal overlay district, because I was looking on the staff report. And it sewer is a question mark.
It is located on the town sewer.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
it is part of the Little Pond Sewer District, there, and it is connected.
And you said there is a recycle reclamation?
There's reclamation on site prior to reaching
Silly.
sewer.
Silly?
And the building that's being raised is, this new building is going to be in a different location than that?
That's correct. It'll be rebuilt to be conforming as to setbacks, located in a site that is central to the lot that allows for traffic flow on both sides.
Pat?
And you're using the existing curb cut?
Correct.
Charlie?
It's a good-looking building that's proposed. It's really a nice-looking building. I wonder, you must have seen the questions that came from the engineer?
I did. I do have a copy of the staff report and the
Right, under his general comments. I wonder if you have any response to those. A landscape plan, lighting plan, signage?
Well, the landscape plan was submitted.
Oh,
It was, the electronic file was submitted last week. Hard copies were submitted today. I'm looking at the paper.
oh. Is there another one? Where is it?
Oh, this is different than what's...
So the landscape plan was submitted. We submitted the color copy just to make it a little bit easier. It's hard to
Ah,
color copy of
that's
the office,
this.
so we had to use the black and white. But Mike did submit the color copy, but the hard copies have been submitted, and the PDF was submitted last week. So the landscape plan had been submitted. As to lighting, I think that there's some downlighting proposed on the building, certainly nothing that's going to intrude upon butters or create a nuisance.
And signage?
There is a small sign that'll be proposed for up here. That's still in the very conceptual phases and would be subject to the sign review committee. I do have a mock-up that I had not submitted to the board previously, but I'd be happy to submit at this time.
But none on the building?
No, I don't believe there's going to be any in the building. No. So there'll be a sign located in this front corner, subject obviously to sign review. But other than that, there's going to be no major branding of the building.
Paul?
Yeah, I guess I have a question for Mr. Porcelli. The large drawings you have here are fine, but these smaller drawings are reviewed in the office by Arlen, by the architect. Seems to be upside down, seems to be, there's no north arrow. But if I look at it, it has to be turned around because that is not consistent with what you have on the big drawings. I don't even notice that there is no north arrow, so I assume north is supposed to be down on this one. Because as you have it here on the big one, the traffic goes on the north side and goes to the building. See the way you have that? The interior, you don't show the interior there, but see the driveway comes around to the right and goes on the north side of the building. This particular thing, when I looked at it first, it looked like it was opposite. So I assume we just discard this. You see what I'm talking about, Michael?
Well, through you, Madam Chairman, I think Member Dreyer is basically saying that the orientation of the plan prepared by others, the architectural plan, is just 180 to this because, but its orientation on the drawing is consistent. It's just that you would have to flip that around.
All they had to do is put a north arrow.
Yeah, but
shooting down.
The concept is still remains that you make entrance to the property in this counterclockwise traffic circulation. You approach the two pay stations that are separated by an island, and then the vehicles merge and turn in and enter on the rear. They get processed and then they exit, and then there's 3 turning movement options. Well, you have one in, and then you can either go right to exit or left to exit. So, sorry if there was confusion on that, but we did the site plan, and we generally tried to orient north straight up, or close to straight up, for people.
Thank you.
So, on the north side, that's just for people going to use the vacuums.
Yep, so this is
And-
parking spots and there's a handicap spot over here, and then vacuums will be located along the building.
And it's accessed by either way.
You could go through, you could come around the backside and just continue straight, or you could access from this direction.
Because I'm looking at the arrow, you go through a pay station, then you decide you don't want to get the car washed and go out and vacuum it instead.
So you can turn in here, you can turn left.
Yeah.
That allows for traffic going in that direction. And then, or you could, I think realistically, if someone was coming in to park, or, I imagine that there'll be opportunities to go through the pay station without necessarily having to pay to go through the pay station.
Okay.
But allowing, if someone needed to get out of the line for whatever reason, having an access in that direction.
Yeah. Escape hatch.
Paul?
It appears you got solar panels on the south-facing roof, is that correct?
That's correct.
Covering the entire area? I'm not crazy about the cupolas, but they're fine.
It's a harken to our Victorian past.
Yeah.
I just,
I mean, look at all the pictures in the
Eye of the beholder.
Enterprise.
John?
On the plan, can you tell me how many vacuuming stations there's going to be that is proposed?
They're in the
told you,
picture.
they're in the picture.
The red thing on the
I
picture.
think there's 8.
Right there.
There's 8.
There's 8 located on that side?
8.
So I'm sure you're going to get this question from the Board of Appeals. Employee parking?
So there are 3 spots here that are not vacuum spots, and as well as there's 2 spots located on the northern edge of the property.
Okay.
So there is regular parking, for lack of a better term.
And if I understand, there is no self-washing available?
That's correct.
And
Just
and it's not get out of your vehicle, you stay in your vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is there going to be detailing as well?
I don't believe so.
No detailing, so you just get in your car and you go through and it gets washed and...
And then individuals can choose to vacuum. I think for comparison's sake, Sandwich Car Wash, Route 130 in Sandwich, if everyone's familiar, has a similar setup where you can drive through with the automated washing, but there is a separate vacuum station where people can go and have it vacuumed, but it's not necessarily a detailing
Okay.
station.
I was going to say, as you pointed out earlier, this has been a problem property for food vendors. I don't know why, but hopefully it'll work out well. It's right next to the T-Ticket Park, and it would be a big improvement. Besides, I won't have to drive to East Falmouth anymore and get my car washed.
Born.
At the pay station, is it going to be automatic, or is there going to be an attendant?
There will be an set up to be automatic, but there will be an attendant during all open hours.
Okay. And how many vehicles can stack up before they back out onto T-Ticket Highway?
Quite a few, and I'm sure we can get you the exact number, but part of it is the fact that there are 2 lanes of stacking. So you have, this is about, from here to the pay station is about 150 feet, as I measured it. The road layout is going to be even further than that, and the majority of that is going to be a double wide area. So Mike's going to get you the exact number, but I believe it's quite a few cars that could potentially be in queue.
And then,
From the pay stations back to this position is about 180 feet. And if you assume a standard parking space is 18 feet by your dimensions, so, you know, given a little bit of clearance between each car, you know, theoretically you could put 10 and 10, so 20, but then they could bleed out a little bit into here. So, you know, taking into account a little separation between each car, cars aren't 18 feet long, they're like 15. A truck might be 16. So you're really looking at like a queue of about, on average, 20 vehicles that could queue in this general double stall area.
thank you.
I have one final question, Mr. Porcelli. The entrance and exit looks a little complicated. Have you done the estimates on any stacking? How many cars would stack? Look like there maybe 12 to 15 or more vehicles. The car wash out in East Falmouth, for example, backed up onto 28 the other day when I was there, and that's not a good thing. Looks like you have a lot more room there if you have a high peak period. But did you do any estimates on how many cars can stack up before getting in there? And secondly, it's a little complicated turning right, turning left, and coming in at that curb cut. Would you just explain that, please?
Was your question related to stacking on entering or exiting?
On entering.
Well, on entering, as you approach and make the turn, from this position in allows for 10 cars per lane, so 20 cars.
10 cars, so 20 cars, wow.
So I think the owner would love it if there was a stacking
Well, that's
situation
pretty-
like that, but I don't know that it's realistic, but it's over-designed, we don't expect that ever to happen. I'm not a qualified traffic engineer, so I didn't do any, you know, estimates on, you know, trips per day and things like that. I think we did. But we're very confident that we don't expect there ever to be a queue. Some of the other ones I'm familiar with in town don't have that same capacity. They have a single lane,
Right.
and not even that long a distance. So I don't expect that to be an issue at all.
How about the traffic in and out? You're going to have lines in there showing,
Yeah, if you look closely,
can't see it there.
there's very bold, and they'd be painted on the pavement, traffic directional arrows. So, for instance, here's the first one coming in, and then it's very obvious that, you know, there's a double lane here, and then you got two-way traffic here, so that you could elect to come in and with local knowledge, once you understand and use this, and you just want to vacuum your car, you can come in and park in one of these places and vacuum. If you choose to go in and have the car washed, you could, and then exit and come back around and vacuum. I suppose if you weren't familiar and you wanted to vacuum your car and didn't want it washed, and you happen to go this way because there's an attendant, you can admit you made a mistake and they're gonna let you through, and you can come around and come over here and vacuum. So that's the concept.
Well, I was referring to the entrance there. Are there going to be lines separating you have traffic coming
sorry,
out of the
yes,
car wash, you have
yes.
traffic coming into the facility, and you
There's
got...
three distinct lanes, yes, and there can be lines, and there probably should be lines, but there's also painted arrows to make it clear.
So you will have lines. Okay, thank you.
Can there be a sign there to avoid the confusion if you only want to vacuum only, with a sign to the left?
I don't think there's any issue with placing a sign saying, you know, vacuums and car wash.
Okay, because I'm hearing Paul's confusion, I'm seeing the confusion, I have the same thing myself. Because once you get there to the pay station, oops. So it would be far better if there were a sign up there saying vacuum only.
Mr. Travis indicating that's something they typically do anyways, is a directional when
Yeah.
someone comes in and say, you know, vacuums this way, car wash this way.
Okay.
So I don't see any issue with adding that.
Can you go up to the mic, please?
We normally do put the information signs on the lot so that it simplifies it for everybody visiting the site.
Okay.
It's not an issue.
Where would you locate it there, though? Because I see the 3 lanes.
I see that the one for the car wash could either be right attached to the building with an arrow,
Okay.
and then on the other side, it could go on in that island right there.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
right there.
That would make sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
What's the tallest vehicle that will be able to fit in, run through there?
What was that question again?
What's the tallest vehicle that would be able to be washed in this
We
facility?
like to keep them at 7 feet.
Oh, I guess I'm out, so.
But
I got a high top man.
I know, it all depends who you are.
Raise the roof for me.
Oh, they do, it's automatic.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, well,
I make a
we
motion
don't,
to close the hearing?
well, no, we don't, because this is just a site plan review.
Oh,
so
okay.
We don't have to close it. But when would we see them next, Cory?
Do we need to? Why do we need to?
Since,
We can approve it now.
I'm sorry, yes. Do you have a comment, sir? Yes, about this. I'm sorry, I didn't ask for public comment. You're kind of hidden to me there.
My name is Bill Frisocco, and I'm one of the owners of Driftwood Plaza, directly across the street. And I have to say, there's no one in this room that would like to see that parcel developed other than myself and my family. But I've looked at your plan. You've got a beautiful building. I just think that it's too much of a building for the parcel. It's just another overbuilt parcel and T-ticket. It's what we don't want. I think we need to change that culture in T-ticket. I am concerned, and my brothers and I have talked about it, about the traffic, because our curb cut is directly across the street. I mean, if you have 20 cars in queue, that's a lot of traffic. So you got 20 cars going one way, you really don't have an escape route. And then you've got in and out for vacuums. So does vacuums count, space for vacuum, is that a parking spot? You know, you've got 3 parking spots, 4 parking spots for general public and employees. I just think it's too much. And I'm in a position where I'm not accustomed to be, because usually I'm pro-development. But I just think with one curb cut, it's a lot. You've got on the, I don't know, the north side or the west, the east side or whatever, you've got traffic going both ways, and then you've got double stack on one way with no outlet. So 20 cars would be a lot. And then that's not counting the people vacuuming, coming out onto one curb cut on T-Ticket Highway, directly across the street from our curb cut. So, based on that, we have to oppose this. That's it.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
You're referring to only one curb cut, and you've reviewed the plans. I know they're trying to keep what is there currently. You see two curb cuts potentially solving the problem that you see.
I've looked at that parcel. As I don't know if you people know, but my office is looking at that parcel, and I look at that every day. I mean, there's no place to put two curb cuts.
Okay.
That's it. There's one curb cut going on that parcel.
And only space for one curb cut.
There's only space for one.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here's a question. This is a very naive question. Not growing up in super cold country, do car washes go all year? People wash their cars?
So, they are open all year, but I'll tell you that, on a snowy or rainy day, you're not gonna have your car washed, which is why on a sunny day, in the middle of February, you'll see a run to the car wash. But they are typically open all year, yes.
And no ice issues with drainage or, I mean, it's all self-contained within that structure?
It's all gonna be within the building.
Okay.
The car wash itself is within the building. And just to respond to Mr. Frizzoko's comments, I mean, respectfully, what we're proposed is a building which is 13.6% of lot coverage, which is significantly less than what's allowed in the B2 zoning district. So we thought that what we're proposing here is a relatively modest building for the site and for the zoning district. As to the parking, this is not a spot where you're going to have a lot of people coming and parking and coming in at the very small office, and otherwise it's an automated car drive-through. So there are 5 parking spaces outside of the spots available for vacuum parking. So there's a total of, I think, 14 parking spaces, if I remember correctly. Certainly 12 parking spaces. 12 parking spaces. And we've talked about 20 cars queuing, but I think we're talking about what's the max capacity, not what the likely numbers are. So, I wouldn't want to get caught up with the idea of 20 cars queuing. What we've been asked is how many could queue, if need be. And it's been over-designed in order to minimize any impact on a surrounding area.
I'd like to follow up on that.
Oh, Mike, before
Yeah.
Paul wants to follow up on that.
You mentioned that.
I just wanted to
Go
add
ahead.
to what Kevin said first about the cars entering and exiting. You also have to take into account the fact that there's a process to wash the car. So as the car goes into the building, a process occurs, takes some time, a few minutes by the time everything's said and done, and then a car exits. So the cars aren't stacking up behind each other as they're trying to exit. There's ample time to get out on T-Ticket path by the time the next car comes. That's assuming like continuous flow, which isn't reality. The 20-car stacking is really a safety factor design in the event you have some busy Saturday morning or something like that, where you just want to mitigate against that potential. So the expectation is more like 6 cars or so on average, 5 or 6 cars that are in queue at one time.
Anecdotally, for myself at least, I found that car washes tend to be a matter of convenience, not a matter of destination. So I don't think we're adding a lot of additional traffic to Route 28 as opposed to someone saying, there's a car wash. I could really use a car wash, which is how I typically end up with a car wash.
I have a further question on, you said you reclaim 60% of the water, but I am concerned whether you have an oil gas filtration system here for the water, and I'd like to hear about that, and what then happens to, if you have it, what's filtered, how it's disposed of.
Normally, the city sewer department requires a grease trap before it goes to sewer. But in the reclaim system, we have 6 chambers that the water goes through, and 60% of that is recycled back in. So by the time it actually goes out of the last tank in the reclaim, it's actually pretty clean water that we're turning back to the town. The other thing with our soaps are high phosphorus, and the phosphorus helps the sewer department. They should actually pay us to take our water.
But you still
Nice try.
have oil gas in the water from the washing of the cars. There's oil, part of the car.
Yeah, that gets pumped out. There's a chamber where all that is caught.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, there is and then that gets pumped and hauled away. That ends up environmental waste.
Okay, and that is filtered out of the water. You have a
Yeah.
specific filter for
Yeah.
that. Okay, thank you.
I have one final question.
Wait, that's John.
Just a question. Is traffic mitigation in our purview? We do site plan review. Traffic mitigation is, okay. I mean, I agree with Mr. Forzoka, there's going to be a lot of traffic here. It's a very busy road, period. And, but I don't know what could be built here that's not going to have a lot of traffic. I can see days where, because it's just a one-lane road, or 2 lanes, where if people are waiting to get in, you're going to have backup on T-Ticket Highway. It's going to be an unsettling situation, but I don't know, you could put a McDonald's here, you could put, anything could go here almost, so traffic is very difficult. And part of it is difficult because some of us already have businesses on that road, so I don't know how to get around it, but, or even if you can get around it, but I didn't know if it was in our purview or not, so,
Definitely is.
okay.
Paul?
Mr. Clower, you mentioned the number of parking spaces. How many employees do you anticipate at this?
Typically, there's 2.
2? Because I see you look like you only have 3 parking spaces and 1 handicap. Is that sufficient for that? Yeah.
These 3.
These 8 here are for vacuums. You had a handicap, and then you got 1 here and 2 over there, so I only see 3.
So as I noted, this is not a place where, there's a very small office located within the building. Other than that, outside of vacuuming, there's not much call to go into the building for people who are there. The vacuum stalls are open for parking. So based on the amount of actual office space, the 3 spots we believe are sufficient.
Any other questions?
Yeah, related to that is, I don't see any area like for a bike rack, if some of the employees want to use come by bicycle, might be appropriate to add something like that.
I have certainly no objection to it.
Either on one of the entrance areas or back here somewhere on the north side. Think about it.
Certainly.
Mr. Frizzoka?
I was just curious, are you going to be selling accessories like up in East Falmouth and a lot of car washes?
No, not to my knowledge.
So that's a yes or a no?
The,
I mean, like,
what are you talking, like accessories?
Cleaning products,
No,
fresheners?
No, there won't be any of that. They might hand out a freshener for you.
I just want to comment, I think in East Falmouth, you get out of your vehicle and walk through the building, but they're saying you're not getting out of your vehicle here.
Drive through.
You're staying in the vehicle at all times.
Unless you need a shower.
Anybody else? Okay, so,
I just wanted to say, I think what John said is important, that there could be issues about traffic, there could be issues about needing another curb cut. It's not possible, and this is a development area we want the town to develop, and it's zoned for this, and the lot coverage is correct, so it's
in.
right.
Okay, so we take this under advisement, and Corey, you were taking notes, I assume. When is the next point when we bring this up for final discussion, and I think you'll have some kind of a
27th.
27th? Okay. Yes, I think so. I think that would be appropriate, a draft decision that we can look at and comment on at that point for the site plan review. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So we shall see you on the 27th.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
Thank you. I don't like this.
Scattered all over the place. This is a huge one.
So we
I
got
do that
here.
all the time halfway through the meeting.
No, we don't have
Stuck
any-
on something else.
If you want to leave it, there's not in the way.
Now, this next one has been withdrawn, is that correct, Corey?
Yeah, there's a letter here.
So we're,
There's a letter in the packet.
Yeah, right here.
so do we have to,
We have to accept their withdrawal.
need a motion?
I move that we accept the Boker's withdrawal of their site plan review to construct an accessory apartment.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved, okay. Now, the next thing is planning board discussion, zoning articles for spring town meeting. So, we heard these all last meeting,
Right.
okay, and we took them under advisement, and now we're discussing them, right?
And we can also recommend
We can make-
a warrant if we choose to do
Yes.
so at this point.
If we're ready to do that as well. So we want to take them one by one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have the old...
So the first article, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 240 zoning of the Code of Falmouth by adding the following Article 8 to agricultural districts, Section 240-38O, and agricultural A and agricultural AA districts only, ground-mounted solar photovoltaic array, or do or take any other action on this matter on request of the planning board. So now we have discussion on it.
I would like to IP this because I think this is something that we should have some hearings on, get some public input on this, as opposed to just hashing it out on town meeting floor, because this could have a lot of ramifications. So I think I would recommend IP.
Yes, Pat?
I am going to concur with Bob because I've had a lot of heartburn on this because we have so much agricultural A and agricultural AA, which effectively in this town is housing right now. If we allow this, no matter where on A and AA, we may not like the results. So I would like to see IP also on this. But it's weird because it's on request of the planning board.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But, you know, you think about it, we've had really good success having hearings, sending out to town meeting members, getting their comments, and having public hearings and discussing these things before we come to town meeting. And I think that this warrants, it's important, and it warrants it, and I think we could do the same thing.
It seems
I'm
simple
agreeing with
at
you,
first.
postpone it. I'm not,
Yeah, but if we IP it, in town meeting, somebody can object to that and say, and make a positive motion.
They can always do that, right? Yeah.
So I think if we have any heartburn, as I do, as Bob does, as Pam does, I don't know about any of the rest of you, on this, we can IP it, and then if town meeting feels strongly that they want it to be any place in A
Do you
and
want to
double A.
explain that for people that don't know the acronym?
Indefinite postponement. Thank you. Yeah, because at one point I didn't know what it was either.
Well, when we, I think we get to say why we're making the recommendation.
always do.
So that at that point, we would say we do feel it's not ready.
No, I would say that it encompasses too much of the town without any kind of
Public input.
public
Okay,
input, special
same.
permitting.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you, I just didn't express myself right.
Oh. So, Bob, since you were the first one, would you make a motion?
Well, how about anybody else? Anyone else feel strongly that we need to move this forward?
I would just like to know what was the purpose, why did we do this in the first place? What was the thought?
Do you want me to answer? We had a petitioner's article at last town meeting where there was an abandoned gravel pit that was owned agriculture, and they wanted to put a solar array in there.
Okay.
And what they wanted to do was rezone it to light industrial C, so that they could put the solar array there. And the fear was that they're taking agricultural land, rezoning it to
Sure.
light industrial C, which could have meant a contractor's yard in the future, and they didn't want that in that area, so.
So this becomes a special permit use.
Okay.
That goes away if it lapses for 2 years, and everything reverts back to the underlying zoning, so it allows for more protection to the neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a special permit use.
But it could also be somebody has a house and they want to put 2 panels on the ground.
Yeah.
and I don't see that here, but I see it in other places, so.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I don't mind the indefinite postponement, and I remember the other case, but I wasn't sure if that's what,
That's precipitated this,
Okay.
yeah.
all right, thank you.
Just to make sure I understand, it would not be timed for a public hearing before this article goes to town meeting.
That's correct.
So we would have to
We're recommending
vote
indefinite
down indefinite
postponement.
postponement of our own article.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure I understood that.
Okay, so we want to vote on this?
So this is a discussion, so Corey, you want to write that up for us?
No, we have to take a vote on it.
But we have to take a vote on it? Okay, well, the motion is then indefinite postponement
For the warrant.
for the warrant.
So, Bob, do you want to make the motion?
Yeah, I move that we recommend indefinite postponement for the article to see if the vote, if the town will vote to amend Chapter 240 zoning of the Code of Falmouth by adding the following article, 8 agricultural districts, 240-38 in agricultural A and agricultural AA districts only, ground-mounted solar photovoltaic array.
And I'll
Or
second.
do not take any action.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay.
Should oppose my own motion.
Okay, the next one, article, to see if the town will vote to amend Article 6, General Residence Districts of Chapter 240-zoning- of the Code of Falmouth by adding the following, Section 240-28H5, accessory apartments, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, because
Okay.
it's our accessory apartment bylaw.
Because all we're doing is inserting the accessory apartment bylaw inside this one particular zone.
Yeah.
We're not changing anything in the accessory apartment bylaw, we're inserting the whole thing as a whole. And so when we're doing this in general residence, is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
general residence districts.
So,
So any discussion?
well, my understanding is it's just an oversight. We forgot to put it in.
Yeah. It's,
You know, our bylaw is weird like that. It doesn't have an accessory apartment bylaw once, and just say, referencing all the other things, they put it in every single one, and we just missed one.
So I will move this article as written to the warrant, as printed to the warrant.
Okay, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay.
Okay. Then the next one, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by deleting section 240-142 as amended in 1983 and substitute the following updated section 240-142 regulating cooking and housekeeping amenities in commercial accommodations guest units. And this is as it is, section 240-142, cooking and housekeeping facilities. Commercial accommodations units may contain amenities for private cooking and housekeeping only as the Board of Appeals allows by special permit upon the board's determination that the allowed amenities are customary to guest units and will not change the nature of the use as commercial accommodations. On petition of Kevin P. Clower II.
Second.
Discussion? Somebody's got to have some questions, Charlotte? You have?
This was about coffee pots, as I recall.
What?
She says it's about coffee pots, as she recalls.
Coffee pots.
You weren't here, could we
Yeah.
get Kevin too? You want Kevin to
Well,
explain it? or-
Well, no, let's have a discussion. I think you were tongue-in-cheek with that,
I
right?
was. I'm
Okay, we
sorry,
don't think
but
we need
if
to
you
have an
weren't here-
explanation on a joke.
Like a small efficiency within,
I guess it's pretty bad if you need a lawyer to explain your punchline.
No, she has a sense of humor.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
that's
What
a,
was your question? I'm totally off track.
Kevin just said like a microwave or something, not a full efficiency apartment, not,
Well, it's going to be up to the zoning
Yeah.
board, that we're just giving them some leeway to do
Okay.
it, yeah. They're going to have to define it and condition it, whatever they do, it's their hunt.
Does the language need to be more definitive?
Yes. Like you, John, I'm having a little bit of problem with this because it says for private cooking and housekeeping, which to me says, uh-oh, this could be an apartment that could be rented for, even if it's a guest accommodations, it can be rented for a longer period of time. I'd like to see more definitive language, and I'm not sure what that definitive language can be. We can agree with it, but the language would have to be changed when we recommend it. So it would be as recommended by us. So rather than saying, no, we don't agree with it, because I myself like to go to a hotel or motel, and it's got a microwave, it's got one of those little refrigerators, and it has a little bitty sink there, so that you can have breakfast in your room if you want to. You put a small jug of milk in there, you can have a coffee pot. I personally like that.
I was trying to figure out how this restriction came in the first place, because I thought they had these things in all hotel rooms. Yes.
It was explained to us when we heard about it, that this is necessary because the commonplaceness of those microwaves and coffee pots is recent. And when the bylaw that covers this now was written, they weren't. It has changed. And arguing in favor of the language we have here, this is by special permit each time anyway. So not changing the language allows things greater flexibility to change with the times and not have to keep coming back every time they plug in a new thing.
Okay.
I wish it would say that they were going to put in multiple plugs for all of my electronics. It should be required.
May I ask Kevin a
Sure,
question?
certainly.
Okay, we're past the public presentation and
Yeah.
everything, but Kevin, I'd like to know if you had a model for this language.
No. We basically looked at the language and thought, the existing language allows accommodations that were in existence prior to 1983. to have cooking and housekeeping facilities provided by special permit. All we're trying to do is make that uniform, so whether it existed pre-1983 or post-1983, because, you know, as I understand it, there has not been a hotel built in this town since 1983, essentially. You know, we do have a client looking to do so, and this is an integral part of it, because a modern hotel doesn't not have a microwave, or doesn't not have a small cooking, by cooking I mean a coffee pot, or a kitchen, you know, a refrigerator, and small sink perhaps. You know, but I think that is something that people expect in a hotel, and it's not feasible to create one today that doesn't have those things. So, you know, our thought was that by keeping it under special permit provisions, it still allows the town a chance to regulate this in a way that's consistent with the existing bylaw for pre-1983 hotels. So I suppose the model is the existing bylaw to some extent. Very long answer to your very simple question.
Okay. Because what is giving me some trouble here is when you say private cooking, could be hot plates, just as well as a microwave. And a hot plate is a little stove. So, and those can create problems that a microwave can't.
But I think by keeping it under special permit, you'd have a situation where it could be restricted to, you know, no continuous rentals for more than 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever the
It's dangerous anyway.
whatever the board felt the appropriate time frame was, because this is intended for commercial accommodations, not for boarding houses. I think there was a difference there. You know, what we're talking about is commercial accommodations with the, you know, commercial accommodations defined, you know, we look at hotels, motels, things of that nature.
I think the Board of Appeals would take care of that.
Would condition it appropriately.
Yeah, I have faith in them.
Oh, I do too. I'm just questioning the wording of it.
Right. Well, no,
Because we all
you
know
don't-
people like Kevin can come in and say, but.
So, I mean, this is important,
My
though,
job.
because at town, we're gonna make this recommendation on town meeting floor.
Well,
And
he-
somebody's gonna probably ask us about this, and we'd be good to have the answer. That
yeah.
Which would be that we trust.
we trust the zoning board of appeals to put their conditions on it as a special permit.
And I do intend to be present and speak at town meeting as needed, so,
Yeah.
just to
And
address
it's
these
to
various
update
issues.
an outdated bylaw.
Well, that's right, you get to present this, we don't have to.
Yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah.
I
If you'd
forgot.
like to, if you'd like
No,
to.
no, it's just, I was thinking I might, then I realized I don't have to, it's yours.
Just have your PowerPoint ready.
Okay, so we have a second on this.
Yeah.
Second more?
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on.
Okay, next article. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, section 240-67C, in parens, lots for commercial accommodations, end parens, by inserting in quotes, and business development, end quotes, in section 240-67C2, after, in quotes, business two, end quotes, so that section 240-67C2 will begin, in quotes, business two and business redevelopment, colon, allowed, end quotes. Said section will otherwise remain the same. On petition of Kevin P. Flower, second.
Do we need any further discussion? This is just adding it to a different section of the zoning, right?
I just wonder what impact it will have on business redevelopment, because that separated that from B2 for a reason.
It did.
So I'm just wondering what kind of impact it would have.
Well, the biggest impact that I know of is the business redevelopment is the setback in the front. No parking is the big deal.
Right.
And lot coverage is greatly reduced compared to B2. I don't think I don't think the use inside the building is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of the no parking in front's the big one, right? And the business redevelopment,
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
big.
no parking in front, but also we encourage shared
Or
parking.
encourage
when we're
shared
talking
parking,
about
yeah.
Parking.
Right. So that has that component. And then the lot coverage is a lot less in business redevelopment, so it's actually harder. It's less
Yeah.
than B2.
Okay.
Good enough for that?
Yeah, good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Wait, who seconded it?
Aye.
I thought you had a second. Excuse me.
No, I just read the motion. I don't think
I'll
anybody
second
seconded
it.
it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, that's right. Excuse me.
It's okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay.
Okay. Next article, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, section 240-37E, and substituting the following updated section 240-37E to allow splitting of wood for firewood as permitted accessory use in the agricultural zoning districts. Section 240-37E, portable woodworking mill and/or log splitter on petition of Kevin P. Clower II. Okay, now, let's get a second on this, so we're not.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Yes.
Pam?
So having been intimately involved with this, some very uncomfortable issues, I'm just going to share my concerns. One is the proximity to any residential property. Even though this is agricultural, it doesn't mean that it can't be within 500, 600 feet of a residence. Log splitting, woodworking, when large trees come in, the bark is taken off, the trees are split. The noise is one incredible issue that I have.
Hold on for a second. I want to get it clear, though. But a portable wood mill allows that already. It's already an allowed use. This is a question of whether the log splitting component of that, so they could, isn't that correct that that?
Yeah.
I thought
Log
it
splitting and
was,
firewood, I thought.
Right. But the noise, the thing you're talking about is part of the bylaw already. They can do that. They can bring in those big logs, they can peel them and make them into boards.
And cut them up into firewood and,
Well, cut them up to firewood's another thing they get to do. Okay, I'm just wondering,
okay, so let me just explain my concerns.
because I think that some of the noise isn't gonna be part of the wood mill too. The
So
peeling of the logs and
the particulates that are created from the splitting of the wood, if it's outside, any wind can carry it, it's highly carcinogenic. And many communities have said that it has to be done within a sheltered area, so that the wind can't take those particulates and drop it, as wind will do, on someone's deck or property. It's highly, highly toxic. And the noise from, after you split the wood and this equipment comes in and drops it in the trucks that then haul it off.
You have to buy a little book with
It's a whole process that, unless you've actually stood there and watched it and listened to it and seen what those particulates are like all over someone's property, is a little frightening to me. And if we can do something to make sure that it's within a certain distance from any residence, that would be okay for me.
A buffer.
Jim,
I
Like a
recall
buffer.
something, yes, go ahead.
I have perhaps remembered the discussion of this or the explanation incorrectly, but I thought it hinged on the difference between logs and lumber, and this was to clear that up. And I wonder if we could ask Kevin to once again give us his rationale here.
Okay, and I think we might have another question too. I recall the distance from a residence being identified when we were doing something else on this lot. Am I imagining that?
That was,
It was because it was separated by another lot. There was a big issue about the contractor's yard
Oh,
right.
okay.
right on Carriage Shop Lane, but it was separated by a lot, so they would never hear the noise kind of thing. But this doesn't say that. So
Okay.
Kevin
So
could,
I'd be happy to address Ms. Harris's question. Essentially, the reason this started is the building commissioner issued a determination that the use of a portable woodworking mill, which allows for the cutting and planing of, it allows for the cutting of wood, and I'll give you the exact definition, just so I'm not misrepresenting It allows for equipment for producing lumber from logs without permanent installation. Essentially, the building commissioner determined that lumber in that case only referred to construction lumber, so the planing of wood is how he interpreted that. We had taken the position that it included the division of wood for firewood, so the quartering of wood, if you would. Sorry, too many woods. So what we're proposing is that in order to clarify that question, that log splitter be added to the bylaw, it being analogous in almost every way to the planing of wood the only substantial difference there being the direction of the cut, whether it be a vertical cut or a horizontal cut. Because when you have the splitting of wood, it's typically a vertical cut in order to make it about yay long, and then it's done pneumatically to split the wood into quarters or however many pieces. Yes,
Kevin, wouldn't it be fair to say that there's quite a difference in noise between planing wood and splitting logs? I've heard lumber planed, it's a high whine, and I've heard logs split, and it's a great deal of pounding.
It depends on the type of log splitter. I think you have a variety of log splitters that produce different types.
This doesn't distinguish among log splitters.
No, it doesn't, because my feeling at the time was, well, we got the zoning board of appeals determination as to our appeal of the building commissioner's determination the night before the warrant closed, so I had to get something on the warrant. So that's why it was a relatively simple application. That's not to say we're not opposed to further modification or clarification of the bylaw, but I don't believe that there's a substantial difference in the noise based on my experiences, which are not insignificant. In preparing for this and then growing up around the area, I've been around quite a bit of log splitting, and I've been around quite a bit of planing. And I think that the noise difference is not as substantial, perhaps, as
It's the motor that makes the noise.
And the equipment.
But I don't disagree, Pam, with the dust and things, but I actually think the planer actually has a higher pitch, whine, and produces a tremendous amount of dust, and we're already allowing it, and we're just not allowing the splitter.
You have to see the production and hear the noise difference. One is like that whirring noise when the...
No, I was thinking about you wanting the enclosure.
Right, because it baffles the noise. Is there a restriction, Kevin?
I thought it was for carcinogenic dust.
Well, it is.
I misunderstood.
It is, and part of it comes from when you rip off the bark and then you start breaking up the wood, the particulates that spread throughout. You can go on EPA website and you can read about the carcinogenic effect of being within, a certain distance, and why, as I said, many towns ask for it to be enclosed, at least on 3 sides. And it's, I don't know what the restriction is in terms of distance from a residence.
There's no restriction in the bylaws to portable windmills, none whatsoever. It's an accessory use that's allowed as a by right matter. So,
Well, I'm saying I think there should be a restriction, because if it was within 500 feet of your home, you'd be putting a for sale sign up in a heartbeat.
I think it's important to note that this is an agricultural zoning matter, and while, yes, there are homes in agricultural districts, I think that the intent of the bylaw is to preserve agricultural uses, and I think it is not inaccurate to say that splitting of wood is an agricultural use. It actually falls within the state's definition of the right to farm bylaw. I think that, I also think it's worth noting, I've, again, been around quite a bit of log splitting and researched this quite a bit in the process of the matters I've been handling. I'm not familiar with a lot of ripping of bark off of wood for firewood usage. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in some situations, but we're not talking about a large-scale commercial site. We're talking about an accessory use, and accessory uses are limited by percentage within the bylaw. And it's intended to be a portable matter and used as an accessory basis, not as a permanent installation.
Okay, all I'm saying, and I hope this becomes part of the record, all I'm saying is I think I would feel irresponsible if I didn't bring this matter up, having lived through this and dealt with the families that were affected by it within a distance within an agricultural zone. And I just want to make that very clear, that I feel very strongly about it, because I don't want to see people breathing in any of that. And I think there should be a restriction on distance from any residence. And because you can build in an agricultural zone, and so much of our land has been built on within those agricultural zones, that I think we can't just say, nope, it's agricultural, we're not going to have homes, because we will. So as long as, I've made that statement, I feel really strongly about it.
I understand there's carcinogens in wood. There's also carcinogens in watermelon. And I researched studies, because I'm a lifelong woodworker. 45 years I've been working with wood. And there isn't one study that places woodworkers at any greater risk for cancer than the general public. We could not find one.
I'll show it to you.
Well, we researched it, and we looked it up, and there was no significant increase in cancer among woodworkers than there was among the general population. So I don't know, I don't just see that.
Okay, as I said, I just feel like I wanted to put it out on the table.
Yeah.
Anything, that's fine. I just want to make it, made sure that we were being protective of our residents.
And also, too, you've said a number of times, too, that buyer beware when they look at places. I'm in an agricultural district, and I had 15 acres around me that could have been a pig farm. And I understood that when I bought that land. And there is a farm next to us that has livestock and all that, and we can smell the manure, we hear the animals, and I got chickens running all over the place, and I accept that because I was in an agricultural zone. So,
absolutely,
people have to understand, and I could have somebody lumbering behind me too. I understood that. So
okay.
There is a kind of buyer beware, and you do mention that a lot.
Well, what can we do? We can't really recraft this thing. At this point, Paul, you have?
Yeah, my concern is that the way the bylaw reads now, the portable woodworking mill is by nature not a very big mill because it's portable. It's not a operation where they're creating boards and things of that sort. So it has a limited size. By adding the log splitter, there is no limit to the size of this. Now, your client had an operation at the Tavares property a few years ago. We had the biggest splitter I've ever seen in my life. I took trees, cut to length, and split them and spit them out in piles. The neighbors were very upset with the noise, but that was a major operation. And when you read portable woodworking mill and log splitter, there's no limit on how big that log splitter can be. So I'd be concerned about the...
I'd be happy for that to be portable log splitter, portable.
Well, it was on wheels, so technically it is portable, but it still was a major operation.
John, you got anything to add? No. Pat?
I've got a few comments. First of all, many years ago on Carlson Lane, which was industrially zoned, there was a wood mill that was put in there. It was on the Newton property in the warehouse behind. My recollection, and this is probably, 25 years ago maybe, a long time ago anyway. My recollection was that the town required that the walls be insulated and that the air exhaust be filtered. There were residences near. So there was a reason on that. Now, mind you, this was industrially zoned property. Okay, so that's one thing that supports what Pam was saying, that it was recognized that when you're close to residences, it can be noxious. And that was milling. And it was a large sort of thing. This, as Paul said, portable woodworking, you think of as small because it's portable. It may not be true, but you think of it as small. A log splitter, that's a whole heck of a lot different than me swinging an axe over my head and splitting logs. It's very noisy. I would not like to have that kind of noise next to me. I may not like to have the whine of the portable woodworking mill next to me either. But that is part of our bylaw now. So, right now, I think I would like to see this IP'd until we give further thought to that part of the bylaw, how we want to define it, because with the problems that we're run into with the log splitting, I think we could amend that to, or we could decide to amend it now, that the operational hours be defined for it. So that, say, there's no Sunday usage of it, no usage after, say, 5 or 6 p.m., because, as Pam rightfully said, we don't have very much agricultural land anymore. It's mostly used for houses. And do I like that? No. I love agricultural land. I'd rather not see large expanses of agricultural land changed into housing. But by the same token, we have to deal with our reality. And maybe rather than passing this right now, we need to IP it and look at it and say, well, maybe we can do it by special permit because these are accessory uses. But it says permitted accessory uses, so it's permitted by special permit defining hours of operation. That I would be happy with if we were going to pass this. The other thing I'm not too happy about either is that our building commissioner has rendered an opinion on this. And he said no. And I don't really like going against the building commissioner. I'm not sure what he used to look at. I'd like to find out more about this.
I think we ought to IP it.
Yeah, IP sounds like the best way, and maybe it added on to the, that public hearing.
Well, the other thing too, I mean, Pam's brought up a really good point, and what I was trying to make the point is, we allow them to use a planer that winds high, it creates all kinds of dust, and it's already in our bylaw, and all we're doing, maybe we should control that too, maybe that needs to be inside an enclosure with dust protection. I'm just thinking, the dust protection part of this isn't enough. You know, where the portable wood mill is even worse, I think.
Right, because if we had something that said it had to be so far and a residence went in, then that portable, whatever it is, would have to move and be so far from a residence.
Well, wood plane to me is a really high-pitched,
Yeah, it's a higher-
annoying
higher
sound.
pitch, yeah,
Really bad.
yeah.
It is, and then when you start,
But we allow that, that's my problem.
right, but maybe we can put this all together, but the splitting is, if you think the wood planing is bad, the splitting from those commercial splitters, because they've not just split it, but then it's, you know, loaded onto trucks to truck out, and just the sound of all that wood being picked up and dropped into the whatever vehicle is gonna cart it off, is horrendous. And if you lived, forget 500 feet, even 1,000 feet, it is, you wouldn't wanna live there. As I said, you'd have a for sale sign up and your business would just grow tremendously because you don't wanna be there.
Mr. Chair, if I may just bring a point, which is to say that even by right uses are subject to the nuisance bylaw.
Yeah.
So even if you're allowed to do something by right, you're not allowed to create a nuisance for your neighbors, as we've seen in a number of cases in this town. So I certainly appreciate the concern and understand where people are coming from in raising it. But to the extent that someone was taking an action on their lot that was impacting someone else and was impacting their enjoyment and use of their property, that is subject to the nuisance bylaw, and the town can put an enforcement on that. So I think a lot of the protections that the board is discussing exist already, and it's worth pointing that out.
I would posit that nuisance is in the eye of the beholder, or in this case, the hearer. How do you define nuisance?
Well,
Our
Definitively.
ZBA has.
But it can change.
but why leave it to someone to get, wait, take a slow melt, and eventually call a nuisance thing? I mean, that's quite a process when we can foresee that it's very likely to create a nuisance. Is any great harm caused by an indefinite postponement for us to look further into it?
No.
What would be the harm of that?
I'd say that's the eye of the beholder, too.
True.
Well, anything on a person trying to create a business to wait 6 months is a painful object.
It may be, but if it's,
I'm not arguing to say
I
no,
think
I'm
it-
just
you know,
saying, if it has the potential for impacting many people, then I would rather see a person delayed than the impact.
agree. I agree with that.
Okay.
It's one
You
thing.
don't have to argue with me, I'm agreeing with you.
It's one thing if this is the only thing somebody does, but for a landscaper who's taking stuff from a site that he's working on, cutting it up and then splitting it and then selling it, that's a different thing. And the question becomes, okay, so what do you do with, so if he's not allowed to take that and reuse it, they just mulch it up and, goes in a landfill or something, so, I don't know. I like to see, I hate to see wood just mulched up and
Well,
trash.
this is gonna get a lot of attention on town meeting floor from a lot of
Yeah.
people, so we can,
But we have the option right now of saying that we want to do it as recommended and say portable woodworking mill and/or log splitter by special permit, comma, hours defined.
And distance from residence defined.
Yeah, and that's the thing, do we want to put conditions on it here?
Right.
Because I've got setback from residents, enclosed building, operational hours. Or do we want to just IP it and let them hash it out on town meeting floor?
I'd rather IP it.
I would too.
I heated with wood for the first 20 years of my life. I split every log, heated the whole house. I just don't see it as, but there were small projects, you know what I mean? And my
That's right.
neighbors probably didn't like it at 6 in the morning when I took out my sledgehammer and was cracking the wood to heat the house, but I did it.
Well, my next door neighbors who were just here split theirs on the street, right on the front of their property.
My husband used to do that.
Are we ready for a motion?
Well, we need something, we're not going
Okay, I
anywhere.
will move that we recommend this to the warrant as indefinite postponement.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See? Unanimous, okay. That'll be up to someone putting a positive motion on town meeting floor and see how it
I'll be
goes.
there anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, the next article, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 240 zoning, Article 14, dimensional regulations, Section 240-70, in quotes, maximum building height, end quote, to read as follows. The maximum height for principal structures is 2.5 stories, not to exceed 35 feet, and for accessory structures, and then we have in parentheses, delete, is 1.5 stories, end parentheses, not to exceed, and in parentheses, delete 18 feet, and then in more parentheses, insert 22 feet, as measured from the base of the structure to the highest point.
Second.
A petition of Patricia P. Johnson and others.
Second.
Any, we have a motion in a second.
Right.
We had discussed taking away as measured from the base of the structure to the highest point, because there is argument as to where you start measuring. And to just make it simpler, and Patty said, yes, she would be in agreement to that. So do we want to do it as recommended and just cross that out? Or leave it as is?
I'm trying to think of whenever I've gone in to get a permit, they go around and you have to have an engineer, and they take 4 elevations, they use the average of that.
Yeah.
Is this any different? That's how they do it now. Are we gonna be telling the building inspector how to measure the height of a building?
Well, then you've got the base of the structure, you've got a base here and then a base here if it's on a hillside. So
But they usually average that.
they average it. So that's how we commonly do it now. You're right. I'm just bringing up what our discussion was.
Yeah, wasn't there some question about the word base?
Right.
Yes.
And, because, I look at the base of the structure as the sill.
My recommendation, okay, we
Sill.
can take it out, because I think it should just say the height of the building and let the
Yeah.
building inspector
Yeah.
determine it, whichever he wants to.
Okay, so we
foundation.
want to take out
Yeah.
as measured from the base of the
Okay.
structure to the highest point.
Right.
And
We
just,
should ask
so
the
it would be
petitioner if
as,
that's all right
she
for us
agreed
to
last
approve.
time, I think.
You still
that-
agree? Okay,
Okay, so this is as recommended.
yeah. Okay, and so that means the way they do it now, you're still gonna do it?
Mhm.
You know, whatever the building inspector does.
Determines as,
As the methodology for determining the
Methodology.
height of the building. So we're not changing anything, except for we're letting accessory buildings go from 18 to 22. That's the only thing we're doing here. Okay?
okay?
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm curious why you picked 22 feet rather than, say, 24 or 25 feet.
Mainly because that gives you an angle, or whatever they call it. The angle is more attractive for colonial, it's adequate, let's put it that way. As you see, basically, the town of Falmouth will still be below what, if you go to 22 feet, will be way below everybody else in the Cape. But it's a really architectural reason. 22 feet is usually adequate to get the pitch that you need for a gambrel roof. And for a colonial, straight line, it's adequate. So that's why I have it in like that.
Well, if it were below 24 feet, for example, it could be 18, it could be 20, it could be 22. I don't know, it seems to be arbitrary, I just wondered why.
No, it's not arbitrary. If you look at many garages in Falmouth that don't have they don't have an attic space above them, most of them are like 21 or 22 feet.
Okay.
So that's basically, why I did, the way I picked it.
I mean, your goal here is to make it so they can put an accessory apartment above.
Well, they already do it.
Yeah, I mean, right, I understand. We're trying to
We're trying, it's
facilitate
a
that.
design issue. It's an architectural issue. It has, the side effect would be to possibly increase applications for detached accessory structures for apartments. But my bylaw is just the height, maximum height. And as you can see, you talked a lot tonight about design, pitches, barn-like structures.
Yep.
This is part of it.
Okay.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Okay, Patty, like Kevin, you do understand that you will be making the presentation at
Sure.
town meeting? Okay.
Oh, yes. I just
And-
want your recommendation.
May I recommend that you maybe take 2 or 3 pictures and that you do a table showing the heights allowed by other towns? Good
Yes.
selling point on that.
Yes, I'm going to do.
And PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'm doing a PowerPoint. I'm
Okay.
going to use some pictures.
Great.
It's going to be very brief. I'm not going to stand up there and say, It's
Keep
going to be,
it, keep it short.
oh.
Okay, we ready here, folks?
Okay, but wait, so that I move that we recommend this article to the warrant as recommended, and that will be, I think, a reprint of it, but with that removed, the last part of the last
Yeah.
sentence removed.
We got a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Patty wanted to say something.
Aye. You want to stop us from voting yes?
Oh, okay.
I want you to vote yes, but there's been often lots of discussion on town meeting floor about making it, printing it as recommended, the way it's actually going to look. In other words, take the words out, delete.
In parens and so on, yeah, yeah.
Just put it,
You know what, you understand that, don't you?
put the motion as.
As it will read.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, that's all I want,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Okay.
I mean, I like your recommendation, and I think it's good. Okay?
Thanks,
Yes,
Patty.
we're ready to vote.
Yes.
Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? All set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We kind of half voted.
Yeah.
at the beginning of the meeting.
No, we half voted before and you interrupted us. So we went back and voted it
Again.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so general correspondence,
So-
that's your purple folder.
Yeah.
Watch the Olympics anyway.
That's true.
So there's a lot in general correspondence. Well, at least we found the folder. We've been missing that for about a month.
Well, wait a minute. We were going to tell you about this Davis Straits.
I-
And it wasn't on the agenda. It was
Well,
supposed to be on the
would
agenda.
would it be all right if I just say to Corey right now that the Davis Straits needs to be on every agenda for possible discussion until we, from now going forward? Sure. Okay? Unless you have something you want, I just want to get going, that's all.
I know that, and I just want to get going also. So we're in sync on that. What we had wanted to do was just let the rest of the board know what we have been doing, because there's a subcommittee on the multifamily zoning, and we have undertaken informal meetings, and we've had one with some of the people in the zoning office. Suri and Ollie, and the building commissioner was there, the new housing coordinator was there, and we were able to have a discussion just to get their thoughts on the Davis Strait plan and on multifamily issues. So it's just to inform the rest of you that this is going forward so that you're not surprised by it, and there's an intention to keep having informal meetings as part of leading toward the layout that Jim has in mind toward public hearings, so that when we go to the public, we will have a better draft as a result of getting more input.
So
Just to let you know.
next meeting, you'll bring all the points that you collected from this
We'd be glad to share.
meeting and just share them with us? Okay?
Right.
That's the discussion of a future agenda item, a long one, but that's always, that's what that is. Next meeting, February 27th.
Move to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Wait, Paul had something to say.
I'm fast, you don't have to.
I'm not able to come on the 27th. Okay.
Okay.